Plastic fire. Empty shells in fake attire. Copy tactics, fake ambition. Match the style but lose the vision. Bullet storms with zero aim. Selling skins, not changing the game.
Every map feels mass-produced. Every kill just streamer juice. It's a playlist, not a fight. Plastic war dressed up in light.
Clones of legends stitched with trend. Cash and branding, no real end. Echoes built to feel brand new, but no one plays it past week 2. It's getting old, with a cloth with mold. It's getting old, so left just the branding sold. Like a script foretold.
It's getting old.
Bungie is already shooting itself in the foot. Check it out right here. Bungie says no proximity chat for the Marathon Revival. We'll get into that part. In order to create a safe space for players. Now, even Vice is already asking questions about this. Vice, right? I was in the wrong space. We'll pull up here. So here we are, back here at the scroll. Bungie's Marathon reveal trailer has me more worried than excited. Could this be another Concord, is what this person over at Vice is asking. This is Brent Cope? Brent Cope? Is that his name? What a fitting name for a writer over at Vice. But this person goes on, he's talking about what this trailer exposes here and what all this information we're getting about this is. Now, for people who are unfamiliar with this franchise as a whole and might be thinking that this is one of those Concord things that sprung up out of nowhere, while it looks an awful lot like it was something that was thrown together in a Roblox lab, as said in the intro there, the reality is that Marathon is a long-running franchise. Now, it has been kind of left to the wayside since Halo came around and kind of stole the show for like alien warfare shooter stuff. But what happened with Marathon is that the story originates in a setting that's not too far in our future. When I say not too far, I mean like it's like 1,000 years in the future, I think. Do we have the 3,000? That's 2,700. So it's like 700 years into the future or so. Again, not too far into the future like the other ones that are showing us like 3,000, 4,000, year 7,000 year in the future, that stuff. What it is it took kind of inspiration from what happened in Alien and kind of like bent it back in on itself a bit. So the story is this, is that for whatever reason, Mars and Earth, and I don't remember it clearly, whatever reason, Mars and Earth got into conflict with each other and ended up deciding that through peace, they would send a colony ship out into the Tau Ceti region to colonize it for corporate purposes, for humanitarian purposes, and of course, for military purposes. Naturally, the human need to expand drove this. So again, you've got this kind of motley crew set out to handle this, and things aren't going well right out of the gate. The Marathon itself is a ship that's governed by no less than 3 AI. And so I believe it's Durndal, Tycho, and Leela. I think it's like Leela with the single eye. I think that might be a joke. I don't know if that's part of Futurama's story or not, because it's kind of funny that she... Anyway, if the Marathon story goes is that you are a colonist aboard this generational ship, meaning you will live and die on this ship, and perhaps your children might not, but they will be at advanced age when they reach Tau Ceti. This is not a light speed ship, okay? You're gonna get there when you get there. That's the colony ship Marathon. So what happens is, and what led to these synthetic humans that you're seeing right here, these guys, let me just try to find a close-up. There it is. Hold it. It looks like 73% of you watching this aren't subscribed. Time to click that button. You know where to find it. These guys right here. You'll notice they've got grooves on their faces. You can kind of make that out in the detail here. That they have these grooves in their faces right here. See that? Those little groove patterns there? Well, that's because their faces and bodies, their whole bodies, are printed out by synthetically grown worms. And these are what are known as biomata. And biomata are like the apex full fruition of what began with aboard the Marathon, where they were taking dead soldiers and like bringing them back to life using like this thing that attached through your eye and went like through your eye socket and just like brought your brain back to life. They replaced like broken bones and things like that with metal bones and certain cybernetic enhancements and just kept you going. It's not, they weren't necessarily zombified. I don't remember that being part of the marathon dialogue, but it just kind of ignored the existence of a human soul. It just kind of was like, yeah, we just turned the brain back on and that's Jimmy again. And, the more Jimmy gets hacked up, well, we'll replace parts on him. And that's how I remember it, that they kept their humanity. Now, what happened is that the biomata arrived and they were more machine in the last iteration than they were these right here. These are like the full 3D printed humanoid experience. So before this, the biomata had more electronics as a part of them. Some of their joints and some of their enhancements were mechanical, and now these are fully printed machine men that go around killing each other eternally. This is the point in Marathon of the runners. All right? So the runners are in this game, and this is what they are. They're mercenaries that carry out endless war. So that's the premise to this, is that you're on this colony, you're up against competing factions, and you got to wipe them out. And that's the story. You lost contact with the Tau Ceti colony. It took you 100 years to get here, and you're basically ready to kill each other by the time you got there. There's the story for you. So here's the big problem with all of this, okay? The big problem with Marathon at the end of the day is that it is plastic. Most of the people who are Marathon fans, I'm not a guy that played these games. I really enjoy the lore. You'll find that I'm a lore hound more than I am like in the game playing around with the triggers and stuff. I'm sorry. I just like how these writers came to be. A lot of the time with the sci-fi writers, they get really up their own asses and stuff like that. You see that in some of these games. You saw that in Concord. But a lot of the time, the video game sci-fi writers aren't that much up their ass. I'll give you an example. Kojima was pretty good until he decided to crawl up his own butt with Death Stranding. Feel however you like about that, but that game is not a game. It's a movie. And much like this is not Marathon. Okay? I'm sorry. This takes what would have been a Marathon setting and decided to turn it into a hero shooter. Now, you can call it extraction shooter, you can call it Helldivers with a cyberpunk aesthetic on it, whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, what you're doing here is you're doing PvP and PvPE, which is when you fight the environment as well. You're up against the environment as well. And you got to get out of here. I know that's an extraction shooter, but what you're looking at here are stylized characters for the purposes of selling you skins, just like Fortnite, just like Call of Duty. What you're looking at here are just base maps that don't really do anything other than channel you around so you can camp and you can get cool shots and stuff like that, just like Valorant does. It is just a snapshot of every FPS hero shooter right now. And they added in the extraction function. Now, I realized wow, I don't know what happened there. I think I got abducted for a second. Either way. Now, I realized to you and me, right? That's not such a big deal. If the game looks good and it plays well, we'll play it. This is what Concord couldn't manage to do. It couldn't look good, and it played pretty well from the limited time we got to see it, but who wants to play in those environments? Who wants to play as those characters? Who wants to play for those achievements? Okay? Now, this is the situation that you're going to find with Marathon is the same damn thing is going to repeat all over again. The first 2 weeks, everything's going to be hot and fun, and clips are going to go everywhere. But by the third week, just about everything you can imagine to be done in this game is going to be done. The proximity chat will limit the ability to create chaos to entertain yourself inside the game, and unless you're recording your Discord conversations with your teammates, odds are this is not going to be a fun time. It's just going to be, wow, I get to go play cyberpunk shooter, put my own music on, cyberpunk shooter, and that's it. It's yet another neon colors, people with blue blood, machines killing each other environment. That's all it is. So it's a shame because, like I said, Marathon has a very, very interesting backstory, very compelling setup as to why this conflict has come to be on Tau Ceti, right? This is really like the story leads up to this event where everybody's ready to kill each other here. So they're not abandoning the story per se. What they're abandoning is the execution of that story and turning it into a Fortnite battle royale. Get this, you don't even die in this one until your whole team is wiped out. That's right, your team member can come over, open up a duffel bag, and you rezone back in. Respawn, sorry. Rezone, I don't remember what I was thinking about. Anyway, you respawn back in. Boom. Full health, by the way. You're full health, by the way. There you go, journalists. Can't lose now. So that means that you as the opposition have to keep track of everybody's duffel bag all over and make sure that their teammates are either being baited towards it, or you're going to find a teammate before they find that duffel bag and now have 2 players against your 1. Again, how do you think this is going to work? People are going to get bored. You can't even play around with being stuck inside the duffel bag. You can't go, hey, guys, I'm stuck in a duffel bag. You can't even do that. You might be able to do taunts, maybe, but I doubt it because that will somehow break the safe space for these guys that they need to have here in order to be able to shoot each other. This is the funny part. You are literally carrying out neon-colored hyperviolence. In the trailer, you're shown stabbing people in the chest and breaking off the knife or cracking open their sternum. Neon yuck is going everywhere, right? Oh, it's machines. It's not real people. Fine and dandy. Fine and dandy. All that visual gore, if you will, techno gore, cyber gore. There you go, cyber gore. All that cyber gore is happening in front of you. But you can't handle being called the F slur. You can't handle being called the R slur. We can't say the R slur on YouTube or else we get age restricted. What do you know? You can say all sorts of funny expletives on here, but you start throwing those kinds of words around, not anymore. And that's why you have the voice chat turned off. Over in COD, over in the other ones, they're still patrolling them. You can get people kicked out of the voice chats. Absolutely. They're patrolling them. And it's a double-edged sword. Nobody wants to go into a game and have a guy spam the mic with a lawnmower. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to a guy like play the music as loud as he can in order to rape your ears. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. However, right? There should be a vote to kick. And that'll solve most of the voice chat problems, because if your own teammates want you out of the voice chat, guess what? You're out of the voice chat. So there should be a vote to kick, and that's how you solve the problem of having people that are obnoxious in there, not contributing to the chaos of the game, right? They're contributing to their own personal chaos to destroy the fun of everybody else. Boom, voted out. You have been voted off the island. However, that would mean that would require a consensus among players, and what Bungie doesn't want, and Microsoft ultimately at the end of this, is you, the player, making any decision whatsoever. They don't want you to have any choice. They want you to come in. Do you want fries with that? Do you want a burger? You want a milkshake? That's the kind of level choices you get. You don't get to even decide who you sit down to the table and talk to now. You could sit there and stare at each other. That's it. You can't even talk to them. And that's how they're running it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You vote to evict the people out of the voice chat or mute them so that nobody can hear them. And you're done. You don't have to deal with that person being obnoxious and screaming into the microphone all the time. But they're not brave enough to do that. They're not brave enough to give the player the opportunity to decide among themselves what kind of environment they want to game in. Not brave enough. Those pesky investors, they got to make sure that nobody's having fun, but there's maximum cash going through. I can't wait for all the kooky skins that come through that make no sense whatsoever, because most of these characters look like they're walking around with an easy bake on their head, so the skins are going to look even worse as they try to, like, cutify them and make them more marketable and more interesting to the Fortnite crowd. They're going to look dumber and dumber and dumber, but oh well, that's if it makes it far enough to get, like, skins. I don't know if it'll make it past launch. This is, like... It's a very hard sell, guys. You'll have to let me know down in the comments below how you feel about it, but to me, this is a pretty hard sell.